Well, hello, everyone. What day is it even? Oh my God. Do you know what day it is? It's 420. Happy 420, everyone, just for you. All right. Don't spread any rumors about me. All right, guys, welcome to Live at 5. Live at 5 is a stream that I do every day, aptly at 5, where I come on and I talk about whatever I want to talk about. And sometimes I have guests and sometimes we do other things. If you missed the stream I did with Andrew Gold yesterday, I definitely recommend you go back and watch it. I mean, I know it's a little bit more of an unexpected stream, but that's more of what I want to do on the channel. I want to bring on guests like Andrew who are just doing interesting work and I think have a unique perspective. And, Andrew and I talked briefly after the stream yesterday about possibly like having him come back on the regular. And I think that'd be a great idea because he's just like, I think he's got such an interesting perspective and certainly one that I think we all appreciate. So if you haven't caught up on yesterday's stream, I absolutely recommend you do so. But we've got some big news stories to cover today. And some of this stuff was from yesterday because I couldn't cover it yesterday, obviously. And then we have one thing from today. So let me just give you a quick lay of the land of some of the stuff we're going to look at. We are going to look at Florida clapping back against Disney. They're trying to end Disney. Disney apparently has like a special tax status and a special Disney actually is like a self-government in and of itself. And now Florida's like, no, Disney, not so fast. You're trying to indoctrinate children with woke nonsense. We're taking all your special powers away. So that's what's going on in Florida. And of course, the propaganda against this has already begun. This could cost Florida residents billions. Well, guess what? It's going to cost Disney a lot more than it's going to cost Florida residents. And sometimes you do the right thing, whether or not you're going to make money from it. But I'm not actually convinced it's going to cost Florida all that much. But we're going to read the propaganda hit back from the right. We're going to talk about libs of TikTok. I think that what's happened to libs of TikTok is disgusting and shameful, and I don't think I'm alone in that. We're also going to look at the Daily Beast is complaining about what Tucker Carlson says last night. Now, I actually haven't watched this clip from Tucker Carlson yet, so this is going to be something that we are all going to discover together. And if you haven't seen it, I saw part of Tucker Carlson last night. I didn't see the whole thing. But of course, the Daily Beast is going to complain about it because the Daily Beast wants to be able to dox people with impunity. And they think that that's allowed. I don't think that's a good idea. And then we are going to talk just briefly about the leftist journalist meltdown that happened when Joe Biden's mask mandate on planes got struck down. Oh my God. Wasn't it glorious? Wasn't it glorious? I'm still on cloud 9 over the fact that I no longer have to wear masks when I get on an airplane, and hopefully the flight attendants will stop being such epic bitches over the whole thing and they learn their place and they just serve me my drink and shut the hell up. So that's what we've got on the show today. I also have some thoughts and pontifications that I want to put out there. Just in general, some people might enjoy those pontifications, some people might not. We're going to get to those at the end of the show. But guys, if you enjoy the work I'm doing and you would like to see me keep doing it, the best way to support that work is by becoming a supporter in my Locals community. Locals is the best. My local supporters get all sorts of exclusive perks, such as 2 Zoom calls a week with me. We just had, and not only just me, by the way, like I'm probably the least interesting person on the Zoom calls. Everyone else on the Zoom calls is way more interesting than me. But we just actually had a Zoom call earlier today. It lasted about 3 hours. I spend between 6 to 8 hours a week on Zoom with my locals. Every single week. On Monday, we had a 5-hour marathon of a call. It just kept going and going and going, but it was great. And that's really what my locals community is like. We are genuinely a community. We chit chat, we talk, we get to know each other, we support each other, we help each other through the tough times, we celebrate the good times and the victories and the success stories. We're fighting back against woke insanity. We're doing the journalism that the journalists refuse to do. We really are. We've got a whole team of people. I'm creating a decentralized, volunteer, unwoke army of just normal people that are out there doing the journalism that the journalists should be doing, but they're not because they're reporting on Twitter, because Twitter apparently is now considered journalism. Anyway, you get all that and much, much more when you become a supporter in Locals, which you can do for $5 a month. You can do it for $50 a year, which gives you 2 months for free. You can also make a one-time gift, which I, of course, greatly appreciate. And some of the things you're going to get access to. Oh no, what the heck? No, I don't want to show that. Oh my goodness. I don't know. My screen just got all screwed up. But some of the things you're going to get access to in Locals, and I'm going to hang on. I need to actually fix what just broke because I do actually need it for something. Hang on. There we go. There we go. Now we're back. Some of the things you're going to get access to in Locals, actually, we have something later tonight. So for those of you who missed Joshua last night on Nothing Remotely Controversial, I'm really sorry. Joshua got sick yesterday. He wasn't feeling well, and he didn't think he was going to be able to do a good job on the show. And of course, we wanted Joshua to rest because Joshua is joining us for a private Zoom call at 9 o'clock tonight, where he's going to teach everyone about astrology. This is not going to be recorded. This is a private call. All of my local supporters are going to get access to it, and we're going to have a really great call. And I'm really looking forward to it. I've been learning about this stuff from Joshua for years. He is a wonderful teacher, and I'm sure all of you guys are going to enjoy that as well. That is tonight at 9 p.m. exclusively for my local supporters. We also have book club coming up. We do book club about once a month. This time we are reading Conversations with God, which is the book that I got that infamous Hitler went to heaven quote from. That's from this book, and it explains why, and it explains the philosophy around it. We're reading book one. We're going to gather for a Zoom call on April 30th, which is a Saturday, and around 3 p.m., and we're going to have a chat about that and just kind of hang out. And if you have not gotten my book yet, Actively Unwoke, which is it's available for pre-order right now, this is going to be the next technical book club book, but it's going to be a little bit of a different book club. Everyone who pre-orders the book, as well as, of course, all of my local supporters, are going to be invited to a 3-part book club for Actively Unwoke because the book is broken into 3 parts. The first part of the book is all about decoding the woke in plain English. I basically took the woke philosophy and I dumbed it down to make it as easy to understand as possible. Listen, man, I love James Lindsay as much as the next girl. I do. But James Lindsay can sometimes get a little wordy and a little bit complicated. Even you look at someone like Chris Rufo, and he knows this stuff really well, but he usually goes into a lot of examples to talk about how it's showing up in the real world. What I did in this book is I tried to get the nuance of what the woke actually mean, who these people are, how to fight back against them. The second part of the book is all about case studies. I give you 4 chapters of case studies in which people just like you have fought back against woke insanity. People like Jody Shaw is profiled in the book. Gabrielle Clark is profiled in the book. All sorts of different instances of just normal people having enough of this bullshit and speaking up and fighting back. You lists of highly actionable things anyone can do to fight back against the woke. And then the last part of the book is all about maintaining your sanity, making sure you're taking care of yourself, and also what to do if you're canceled. Because quite frankly, it's really tough to do this. It is. And I see people descending into madness in the pursuit of this every single day, and we don't want that because we want to be in it for the long haul. So that's what my book is. You can pre-order it now on both Amazon, and I have non-Amazon options as well. This is on activelyunwoke.com. So make sure you get your pre-orders in. There's a hardcover, there's a Kindle, there's an audio version, and if you become an annual supporter in my locals, you're going to be able to request a free customized autograph bookplate to put inside your hardcover book, and I will sign it to your name. I will write a special message. If you want me to sign it for someone else, that's fine too. But that's available for annual members of my locals community. All right, guys, let's dig in and let's talk about Disney. Florida is really, I'm actually really, listen, man, for as much as I shit on conservatives, and I do feel as though I've made shitting on conservatives into an art form, and most of the time I do it because they don't do anything. They do nothing. They you can't even get them to do the most basic elements. So I've actually been pretty surprised at what I've seen with this Disney stuff. We've seen protests outside of Walt Disney Studios in California. We've seen people walking out. We've seen people doing letter writing. And now we're seeing Florida lawmakers actually step up and try to do something. Let's read. Governor Ron Desantis issued a proclamation to have Florida lawmakers consider the termination of special districts established prior to November 1968, specifically targeting the property of Walt Disney World. So, one of the things that I didn't realize about Walt Disney, I mean, if you've never been to Orlando with all the Disney theme parks, it is hard to imagine the scale of how huge these things are. And it really is. It's like set apart from everything else. But what I didn't realize is that Disney is actually running its own little government in Florida. It's responsible for everything, which I guess makes sense from a practical perspective because it's so huge and so massive that it's just like it just makes sense to have it be its own private government. But now Ron DeSantis is trying to put an end to that. Okay, Fish Addict says, we're going to address this. Think about how hardworking Scott Presler is. He is definitely not a do-nothing conservative. Why aren't there 1,000 Scott Preslers? There's one Scott Presler. There is one. Singular. If conservatives actually cared about fighting back, and Fish Addict 2, you're the one who brought this up. If conservatives were serious about fighting back, they would have spent the last 5 years training 1,000 Scott Preslers. They would have brought Scott Presler onto the GOP payroll and paid him specifically to create more people like him. Hell, maybe let's not even go for 1,000. 1,000 is like you're shooting for the moon strategy. What if every single state just produced one Scott Presler? That's 50 people. Why hasn't that happened? Don't use Scott Presler as an example to try to get out of actually being to try to make an excuse for why you don't do anything. Scott Presler should not be the only one out there doing things. He is one person. There should be 1,000 Scott Preslers. Literally, all they have to do is copycat exactly what Scott Presler is doing. Scott Presler, I bet, would even teach them to copycat what he's doing, and they haven't done it. They haven't done it because conservatives don't do shit. And they wait for young men like Scott Presler to come along and kill themselves. Because Scott Presler is going all the time. Scott Presler was working so hard during during 2020 that did you see how much fucking weight that guy lost? He's really skinny to begin with. He was working so hard, running around, not eating, that he got down to being a stick figure. And that shouldn't be the case. That shouldn't be the case. Well, okay, I wasn't trying to argue that many more conservatives are hardworking, just trying to get the persistence due. Yeah, Scott Presler deserves all the credit in the world. He deserves all the credit in the world. Scott Presler even deserves more credit because the GOP spits in Scott Presler's face all the time. They spit in his face directly. The fact that he is not on the GOP payroll is an insult. The fact that he was not invited to speak at the RNC convention in 2020 is an insult. Scott Presler has done more for the Republican Party than every single person on the GOP payroll combined. Really think about that. If the conservatives cared about winning, literally all they would have to do, all the GOP would have to do is hire Scott Presler. You can even pay him like a pittance. Pay him $100,000 a year, which is really not that much where Scott Presler lives, but I'm sure he would be really like more than appreciative of. Pay Scott Presler $100,000, $200,000 a year because he's worth way more than that, and make it his job to go around and train more people like Scott Presler. That's all they would have to do. They can't even do that. Why? Because Scott Presler's gay, and oh my God, well, can you imagine people would talk if we put a gay man on the payroll? Don't use Scott Presler as an excuse. Sorry. Don't use him as an excuse. He works way too hard. He has worked himself sick. He does everything every day to make up for the inaction of the GOP and of the conservatives. Anywho, back to that's my little rant. Every single time someone brings up Scott Presler, man, does it Carlin, how can you possibly say conservatives don't do anything? You know Scott Pressler. You met him. I'm like, yes. Yes. I've met one whole person in 2 years. One whole person who's out there doing things. And then every other conservative lifts that one person up as the example of why they don't have to do anything. It's a horrible excuse. Horrible excuse. He deserves all the credit in the world, but he doesn't get it from conservatives, gets it more from people like me. Anyway, moving on. In his opening remarks during a higher education focused news conference Tuesday in the Villages, Desantis says he wished to expand the legislature's current special session on congressional districts. They will be considering the congressional map, but they also will be considering termination of all special districts that were enacted in Florida prior to 1968, and that includes Reedy Creek Improvement District, DeSantis said to Cheers. It is continued fallout of Disney's criticism of the state's controversial. It's not really controversial in the state. Oh, we're going to keep arguing. Okay. Rick Grinnell can't even mention that he's gay. Like, do not for 1 second. See, this is where I really start to get pissed at conservatives when they're like, "Oh, Carlin, you don't think that Scott Pressler was being spit in the face by the GOP when they didn't invite him to speak at the RNC? What about Rick Grinnell? Don't you remember that Rick Grinnell was invited to speak at the RNC? Rick Grinnell didn't say anything about being gay. Rick Grinnell was actually reining in his voice. If you've ever actually heard Rick Grinnell speak outside of that concern, he was reining in his voice to make him sound not gay." Don't you guys dare. Don't you guys dare. What the GOP has done to everyone who has actually fought back in any way at all is abominable. It is abominable. And they all deserve to lose. I'm sorry. That's my position. And it's quite frankly, it is not the left that has made me have this position. It is the GOP and the conservatives and the base who support them that makes me have the position that the GOP deserves to lose. We can talk about Disney now, or we can keep arguing. It's entirely up to you guys. Let's see. Critics have called it the Don't Say Gay law because it bars educators from teaching about sexual orientation and gender identity to students in kindergarten through 3rd grade. AD, yes, the Republican Party is gay. Absolutely gay. But not gay in a good way. Not gay in terms of sexuality. So what? So what? Fish Addict, you're getting dangerously close to getting booted from my chat. I'll tell you right now. You're getting dangerously close. Do you think for 1 red second that it excuses the GOP's behavior because Pete Buttigieg claimed that he was the first gay cabinet member? Do you really think that Pete Buttigieg claiming he was the first gay cabinet member is an excuse for what the GOP has not done in relation to Scott Pressler, is an excuse for what the GOP has not done in relation to Brandon Straka? Really? Really? You think that's an excuse that Pete Buttigieg said he was the first gay cabinet member? That makes no sense at all. That makes no sense at all. Let's see. Where am I? Blah, blah, blah. Don't say gay bill. Whatever. We've covered that 8 billion times from Sunday. Despite Disney's tepid criticism of the legislature prior to the passage, the company has since said it is a goal for this law to be repealed by the legislature or struck down in the courts. It continued in part, "We are dedicated to standing up for the rights and safety of LGBTQ plus members of the Disney community, blah, 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 blah." DeSantis called the company's stated goal as something that crossed the line. Graphically Alex says the GOP is full of gay guys like Lindsey Graham and Adam Kinzinger. Yes, they do need more Brandon Straks and Scott Presslers. They absolutely do. Absolutely do. The state is governed by the interest of the people of the state of Florida. It is not based on the demands of a California or corporate executives. They do not run this state. They do not control this state, the governor said in part. DeSantis earlier this month, blah, blah, blah. The district essentially has the same. Okay, here's the history. In 1967, state lawmakers passed, and then Governor Claude R. Kirk signed the Reedy Creek Improvement Act that had been advocated by Disney for building a new theme park. The district essentially has the same responsibilities as the government, such as land use, essential public services, wastewater control, and more, but it's Disney that's able to operate these functions. Other districts could be, oh, hang on. There we go. It was just playing sound in my ear for a second. Other districts that could be affected include blah, blah, blah. DeSantis credited House Speaker Chris Sprowls and Senate President Wilton Simpson, both of whom attended the governor's news conference on Tuesday, for stepping up and making sure we can make this sunset or the termination of those special districts happen, which I think is very important. And then just earlier today, the Senate okayed the bill to dissolve Disney's special tax district. So I don't think it's been passed in the House yet in Florida, but the Senate has already passed it. And my suspicion, and this is just based on what happens in New Hampshire and not necessarily based on what happens in Florida, is that once it gets through the Senate, like the House is like a breeze, probably. Paul says Reedy Creek Improvement District made sense back when Walt Disney didn't want to have his park's growth hindered like it was with Disneyland. However, it's definitely time to bop the mouse on the nose. So this just happened today. Florida senators passed a bill on Wednesday that would eliminate a handful of special tax districts across the state, including one that essentially allows Walt Disney World to operate its own local government. Senate Bill C-4, introduced a day prior as part of DeSantis' proclamation to have lawmakers consider the termination of special districts established prior to November 1968, passed by a vote of 23 to 16 in the Republican-backed chamber. State Senator Jeff joined Democrats in voting against the legislation. Oh, so we don't like him then. George Andre Veloso Nunez says, how much is the GOP paying this person to defend him so passionately? Mount the like button with gusto. Well, thank you for that super chat, George. Yeah, guys, please make sure you mount the like button. You can caress the like button. We don't smash the like button on this channel. I find smashing to be just like a little bit juvenile, if I'm honest. We just make sex jokes about the like button, which is far, far, far more mature for a woman of my age. According to the bill's analysis, should DeSantis sign it into law, such special districts would be dissolved effective June 1st, 2023. Disney's Reedy Creek Improvement Districts plus 5 others statewide could be reestablished thereafter, but with likely changes. The feud between DeSantis and Disney arose amid Disney's criticism, blah, blah, blah. We've already read that. This is the same thing. It's difficult to estimate what a dissolution of Reedy Creek would cost Disney over time, says Michael, head of the U.S. local government ratings at Fitch Rating, told the Journal it would eliminate access to tax-exempt debt insurance via Reedy Creek, potentially costing Disney and other landowners within the district more to finance various projects. So that's pretty exciting. That Ron DeSantis and the Disney legislature is pushing, or the Disney, oh God, listen to that Freudian slip I just made. The Florida legislature, not the Disney legislature, the Florida legislature is pushing back on them in a real way. Look, guys, and you know what this is proof of? This is proof that when they want to, conservatives can actually do things when they are motivated and they have leadership. And by the way, someone asked me on Twitter today, they were like, Carlin, do you think that they were being snarky? Because, I live in New Hampshire. Obviously, New Hampshire is the #1 free state in the country. Florida is not the #1 free state. New Hampshire is the #1 free state. Florida is the #2 free state, according to like Cato rankings. And so someone on Twitter asked me today, they were like, well, Carlin, don't you think that this pulls Florida closer to New Hampshire in terms of freedom? And I said, no, not in any way. And the reason I say that is because Florida's freedom entirely, 100% depends on the governor. If Ron DeSantis was not the governor of Florida, Florida wouldn't be doing any of these things. What happens when Ron DeSantis gets perhaps promoted into another office, or he just decides he doesn't want to be governor anymore and he leaves? What happens when Ron DeSantis is no longer governor in Florida? I don't think it's going to be good for Florida. And in New Hampshire, we do it completely differently. In New Hampshire, our governor sucks. He's a rhino. We don't like him at all. Don't get me wrong, he's like better than a Democrat, but like he's a rhino, he's an authoritarian. We don't like him at all. However, the largest voting bloc in our House of Representatives are libertarians. They may be registered as Republicans, but they're libertarians. And so our freedom comes from the legislature and having the largest voting bloc in the state legislature. Florida's comes from the governor. Those are two completely different things. New Hampshire's also creating a grassroots culture for around this stuff. Florida, again, just has people that are looking up and saying, Ron DeSantis is the best. Thank you, Ron DeSantis. It's all around one guy. And so I think that at some point, Florida's going to have to grapple with the fact that you can't have your freedom and your liberty hinge on a single person. AD, massholes are not moving to New Hampshire in the way that you think they are. They don't know. They do not. And the Progressive State Project in New Hampshire, where we are pay progressives to leave. We will pay them in terms of like moving fees. We will actually physically move them out of the state and send them to their own progressive paradise. So no, mass holes ain't moving here, man. That's not the way it's working. AD says, does Maine have a libertarian streak? Not as much as New Hampshire. Not nearly as much as New Hampshire, and that's because the Free State Project is based out of New Hampshire and not based out of Maine. Maine is definitely like a little bit better than let me say, Maine is significantly better than Vermont. Maine is significantly better than Massachusetts. But if you're choosing between Maine and New Hampshire's still better by like not an insignificant degree. Oh, is my microphone okay? Okay, it sounds okay now. Okay. We're not touching anything. Sorry about that. But of course, the propaganda is already starting about oh my God, how dare they? How dare they take away our special status? And we have this article in Newsweek, which of course is a shill publication. Ron DeSantis, Disney's revenge could cost Florida residents $1 billion. Guys, never trust anything you read in Newsweek, because they have shill journalists who do horrible jobs, who ask people for comment 4 minutes before they're going to publish an article. Don't wait for any sort of response. And that's exactly why we're reading Newsweek, because they're blatant propaganda. That's how we know they're propaganda. Residents of 2 Florida counties could end up footing the bill if the state abolishes a special district that has allowed the Walt Disney Company to operate its own local government. State Senate Minority Leader Gary, a Democrat, warned on Tuesday that residents of Orange and Osceola counties may have to assume Disney's liabilities of anywhere between $1 and $2 billion if the Reedy Creek Improvement District is dissolved. Efforts to dissolve Disney's special district, along with 5 others, come amid Republican criticism of the company for its public opposition to a controversial new education law that critics have dubbed the Don't Say Gay law. Florida Governor Ron DeSantis, who is seen as a future presidential contender, called on lawmakers to revoke the special status of the Reedy Creek Improvement District amid the ongoing dispute between Disney and his administration over the parental rights in education law. Republicans, blah, blah, blah. We already know this potential impact. Farmer, who sponsored the bill, discussed that the potential impact on Orange and Osceola County residents, saying the population would amount to 1.75 million people. The debt service alone for Reedy Creek is over $1 billion. This bill makes no provision as to how that debt service is going to be assumed. The Democrats pointed to another law that says that local government entities would have to pick up the debt of special districts that are dissolved. The Reedy Creek Improvement District has a long-term bonded debt of about $1 billion, blah, blah, blah. This is not supposition. This is not conjecture. This is a Florida law that says those 1.7 million people are going to have to foot to pick up this bill, adding that the $1 billion figure doesn't include other items covered by the district, citing a firefighter service, parking garages, among others. Well, they're just going to have to figure out a way to do that. They're just going to have to figure it out, man. Like, this is what happens. Like they're just going to have to figure it out. And on balance, I'm sorry, on balance, figuring out a way to make sure that average people don't bear the burden of that additional debt, that's not an out of the realm thing to do. Also, Newsweek is just blatantly shilling here. They're trying to make people afraid. This is what they do every single time. Every single time a Republican or a conservative actually does something and fights back, the media spins into overdrive and they're like, let me tell you all the reasons that this is bad. Let me tell you all the reasons this is wrong. Let me tell you all the reasons, blah, 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 because it's fear mongering. That's all it is. That's all the media knows how to do. I actually, I mean, I don't live in Florida, so this is not my problem. But I would actually be surprised. I would be surprised if Ron DeSantis and the Republicans in Florida didn't come up with some sort of plan for this or didn't have some sort of plan in mind for this. That just makes good sense. They've thought through what they're doing. Well, let's hope. And I think it's a good thing. I think it is a really good thing to send a message to Disney and to, quite frankly, other major corporations out there to keep your effing nose out of things. Don't use your employees as paid agitators to implement your political agenda. Just focus on making movies and running theme parks and running cruise lines and doing all the other things you do. Do not stick your nose into politics. I think it's a really good message to send. Some people might say, and I do think that there is a libertarian argument to be made that this is the government quite literally punishing a private corporation for speech it doesn't like. There's an argument to be made there, and I'm not I understand it, but I also think that on the whole, it is much more important to curtail the disproportionate amount of influence that private corporations have over government, because those private corporations are very literally inflicting their will on the people through the use of the state. There's a word for that. It's fascism. And so I am more than willing to overlook my misgivings about the government bestowing benefits and the government taking those benefits away, because ultimately I think it's in the greater good. All right, moving on. I want to talk about Libs of TikTok because I didn't get a chance to do that yesterday and I really wanted to. Now, I got to tell you, like, I never will be at the scale that Libs of TikTok is. Never, ever, ever is going to happen, and that's okay. Because I don't want that anyway. But I have been doxxed, and I know how scary that is. And I cannot imagine the pressure that Libs of TikTok is under right now. I really can't. I mean, listen, man, she is a private person who built a Twitter account posting videos from TikTok. That's all she did. Post videos from TikTok of people acting crazy, saying crazy things, doing crazy things to show what they're doing. That is all she did. And what we saw with Libs of TikTok being doxxed quite literally by Taylor Lorenz and the Washington Post is an entire media establishment activating to destroy a private citizen because they didn't like the light that that private citizen put them in simply by sharing their content. That's probably one of the things that's most disturbing of all because of this. It's so disturbing that someone could do such a simple act of taking videos from TikTok and putting them on Twitter, and that's it. And that's enough to melt down the media establishment. That's enough to have them assign people to go and stalk this person and stalk this person's family only because they showed them what was really going on. I really hope Libs of TikTok has gotten some great security. I've heard that, like, the Babylon Bee is helping her out. I've heard that Steven Crowder is helping her out. Ron Coleman is her lawyer. And so it seems as though she's surrounded by a really good crew of people that seem to be very committed to helping her out. But man, I mean, good for her for persevering, and good for her for saying last night, "You're not gonna stop me from speaking out." And I think that she's aware that she can make a lot of money doing this. I do not think money is gonna be a problem for her at all. There will be absolutely people who are supporting her to keep going, and she's earned every penny of it so far as I'm concerned. But another thing I wanna say before we jump into this article, and this is an opinion piece. It's not like stating the facts, stating an opinion. The Libs of TikTok expose is part of a new trend shaming private citizens who dissent. What I will say is, every single one of us can do what Libs of TikTok did. Nothing that Libs of TikTok did was special. Nothing that Libs of TikTok did was hard. Every single person can do what Libs of TikTok did. And every single person should be doing what Libs of TikTok did. All they did was, like, they hustle. I mean, she hustled, man. She hustles more than most people. Because I won't deny the hustle. I don't think, like, this is not a dig at her at all. I'm not saying that, oh, what she did is so easy and anyone can do that. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying that the very best way to keep this stuff going and to spread the risk out over a variety of people is if everyone does this or stuff like this. This is why we do happy hour on my second channel on Fridays. This is why I routinely clip things that leftists say in these woke trainings that we watch, and I put them on Twitter to expose it. Every single person is capable of participating in this, and if it's more than one person, they can never take it down. Here is why a decentralized initiative is better than relying on one person. And this is, again, one of the bones I have to pick with conservatives is one person does something and they do it really well, and conservatives are all like, you know, that's it. We don't need to do anything else. This person is running this Twitter account. Scott Pressler is out there registering voters. I can go kick back in my easy chair and watch the game. If you have a decentralized initiative where you have multiple people doing different things and no one's in charge and no one's telling anyone else what to do, but you're all working towards the same goal and you're just doing it in multiple different ways, if you've got 10 people doing this and one person gets taken out, you still have 9 people doing it. Right now, what we have is let's say a couple of accounts, because we can do Libs of TikTok, we can do Mythinform. Those guys do a great job. I'll give a third to Andy No. I see Nat D mentioning Andy No in the chat because Andy No does a phenomenal job. Andy No's work is impeccable. So let's say we've got Libs of TikTok doing this consistently. We got the Mythinform guys doing this consistently. We've got Andy No doing this consistently. You take Libs of TikTok out, which I'm not saying she's quitting, but let's just play pretend for a second. You take Libs of TikTok out, you've only got 2. Okay? What if there were, again, let's use the Scott Pressler example that I used earlier. What if there were 100 people doing this? Then you take one person out and you still got 99 effing people doing it. You know? So I think, again, this is another example of why conservatives need to step the fuck up. No, Benjamin Boyce doesn't do this. Steven Crowder doesn't do this. Steven Crowder does different things. I wouldn't say Drew Hernandez does this either. Drew Hernandez, well, I don't think Drew Hernandez does I'm not a fan. I'm not a fan. Let me just say that. He comes across as very angry to me, and I don't think his work is as impactful because of it, to be really honest with you. But there should be more people doing this stuff. This is not hard. Because when you talk about something like Benjamin Boyce does, Benjamin Boyce puts time into interviewing people. He puts time into editing. Those are things that are more complicated. Literally all all Libs of TikTok does is take videos from TikTok and put them on Twitter. That's it. It's significantly less of a time commitment. And it is something that every single person can do. And to be quite frank, because people in the chat right now, they're naming, well, what about this person doing it? What about that person doing it? What about this person doing it? What about that person doing it? What about you doing it? Why aren't you doing it? What's wrong with you doing it? Why are you waiting for other people to save you? Why are you waiting for other people to step up? Why do you feel entitled to have other people take all the risk for you so that you can be entertained on the internet? Why don't you do it? Why don't you try? Why don't you start an account? Let's read. A controversial expose in the Washington Post by journalist Taylor Lorenz revealed the identity of a popular anonymous Twitter account, Libs of TikTok. The article included private information about the account holder in a naked attempt to shame her into silence. And as such, it is part of a larger trend in which liberals use legacy and social media to silence dissent. The Libs of TikTok account exploded in popularity last year for hosting viral videos of overly zealous liberals engaging in bizarre behavior and advocacy. As bizarre as doxing an anonymous account over political differences seems, Lorenz went as far as harassing family members of the women or the woman behind the account in order to gather information. But these kinds of attacks on privacy and anonymity of private citizens who have dissent from the liberal hegemony have, in ways found to be problematic, have unfortunately become more commonplace in recent years. It's not just coming from journalists. After a group of miscreants stormed the Capitol on January 6th. Oh, I have to say, I actually like how they've called the people who stormed the Capitol on January 6th a group of miscreants. Oh, apparently I have to enable that. Oh, I didn't realize that, Patrice. I'm going to go ahead and do that. I like how they call them a group of miscreants. Congresswoman AOC suggested keeping a tally of political dissenters. Is anyone archiving these Trump sycophants for when they try to downplay or deny their complicity in the future? I foresee a decent probability of many deleted tweets, writings, photos in the future. Well, I posted pictures on Instagram, like from the Capitol lawn, that depicted exactly zero violence on January 6th, and Instagram made me delete them, AOC. Instagram literally locked my account until I deleted them. They depicted no violence. It was just showing there's a massive fuck ton of people on the Capitol lawn on January 6th, because this was before I even knew what was going on inside the building. AOC's call to action seems to have prompted the formation of a group called the Trump Accountability Project. Oh God, remember them? Whose goal was to curate a list of White House staff, cabinet members, and political appointees across the US government whose jobs were linked to the Trump administration in order to blacklist them from future work. Despite the clearly alarming trend of creating official lists of enemies for your political opponents, and using ethically questionable means to expose private information, these kinds of retribution fantasies are enthusiastically embraced by the Democrats and their media allies. Well, I'm going to go so far as to say they're not just embraced by Democrats and their media allies. As many of you know, I have a friend last week who was doxxed by supposed anti-woke people, and the crime he committed was being friends with me. So this is not just going on in the Democrats. This is not just going on in the media, although that's probably where the biggest problem is. I will absolutely tell you that people in the anti-woke community, and I'm going to talk more about this later, are doing exactly the same fucking thing. I don't know who needs to hear this, but putting someone's personal information on the internet is never acceptable. My friend, who is a private person, was literally fucking doxxed last week simply because he's friends with me. Had private information put on the internet as a petty form of revenge against me. And it came from people in the so-called anti-woke community. So we'll talk more about that in a little bit, but I just wanted to state that it is not only coming from the left, and anyone who thinks it's only coming from the left is not paying attention. Doxing is never acceptable. It is never acceptable. I don't care what your excuse is. I don't care how badly someone pisses you off. I don't care how effective you find it to be as an intimidation tactic. It is never, ever, ever acceptable. George Andravalso Nunez says, doxing bad, it doesn't matter who does it. Yes. And we all should be able to say that. Taylor Lorenz doxing libs of TikTok is just the latest incarnation of this trend. It showcases the absurd laws that corporate media will stoop to in order to silence independent voices that capture inconvenient popular sentiments. Listen, I already can hear the argument that I'm going to see in my comments on YouTube, and it's going to go something like this. Well, Carlin, just because your friend was doxed doesn't mean that the left doesn't do this more, and don't you think that the left does this more than the right does? That's actually not the point. It's not the point. And one of the things that I think is going to happen from this, we've talked a lot about the backlash on this channel where the left does something fucking stupid and crazy, and then the right's like, ooh, I guess we need to do that stupid and crazy thing. So the minute that the left does something crazy, the right backlashes against it and does that stupid, crazy thing in direction. And then the left backlashes against the right and gets even crazy. And then the right backlashes against the left because they have no creativity of their own. They don't know what to do. They get even fucking stupid and crazy. And then we have horseshoe theory where you have two sides meeting at the top because they're both acting the same. I don't care who does it more. I don't care who does it more frequently right now because inevitably that balance will shift. Oh, you want to know why? I've been playing with the cable. Is the mic better now? Is it better now? See, it sounds fine to me is the problem. I was playing with the cable. I shouldn't have been touching the cable. Better now, because I'm not touching the cable. All right, I'm not going to touch the cable anymore. There's probably a wire loose somewhere. Okay. I'm not going to touch the cable anymore. I promise. Only need one not to agree with the political stances of Trump supporters or the libs of TikTok account to feel apprehensive about these attacks on anonymity and privacy being normalized and celebrated as brave activism. And then you can see they've got Taylor Lorenz showing up at libs of TikTok's relative's house. The Washington Post expose not only failed to explore the cultural and political reason why libs of TikTok gained such a cultural prominence, it also failed to contextualize why the choice to dox the anonymous user served any real political or journalistic purpose beyond a show of malice and intimidation. This kind of petty behavior is a more common theme among the self-appointed digital authorities of the corporate media class who mask their desire to silence independent actors that pose a threat to their discursive dominance beneath a facade of activism and the work of exposing pernicious actors. Alex S. says communist tactics, doxing and going after the opposition's families. Yep. Nat D says horseshoe theory is when the left goes too far left and the right goes too far right. Well, no. Horseshoe theory is when they become the same at the top. They're the same. They're just mirror images of each other. And therein lies the true agenda behind the calls for accountability that are too often weaponized by media figures who the establishment favors. The desire to control the cultural output of political opponents by employing any means necessary to silence them, including unethical means. This is then justified by portraying private citizens who are simply utilizing their political power and speech as dangerous spreaders of disinformation or as threats to democracy, as in the infamous case of the Trump Accountability Project or podcaster Joe Rogan. Lee says, yes, 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 I wish more conservatives understood that compromising morality by comparison is bad. Yes. In an increasingly volatile and capricious media realm, anonymity provides much needed protection for those whose community cuts against the official narrative, and attacks against the anonymity are almost always designed to intimidate opponents and impact their livelihood or credibility. Well, I actually think that anonymity is one of the problems. I actually think anonymity is one of the problems. Paul, I'm going to be honest, if my microphone distracted you You're not really committed, buddy. We only want committed people here. And if a microphone or the need to buy a snow jacket distracts you, then you might not be a good fit. But I actually think that anonymity is one of the problems, because I think that if everyone who considered themselves part of the silent majority stopped being silent and spoke up and said, here is what I think and here is why I think it, and I'm not doing anything wrong or bad by saying that. If they stopped taking the left's bullshit and spoke up, then this would all be over in an instant. I think anonymity is the problem. I think that too many people try to run and hide out of fear, and then they go behind these anonymous accounts, and then this bullshit happens, and they're like, see, this is why we were anonymous in the first place. Well, listen, man, I'm actually not being afraid of I'm not afraid of being doxxed or any of this, because I'm not anonymous. I just wish more people were speaking up. And if everyone who disagreed with this stuff spoke up against it today, it would all be over. There would be nowhere for these people to go. The only reason the woke left continue to win is because people insist on being anonymous cowards that don't speak up. That might not be what you want to hear, but that's the truth. That is the truth. I understand why libs of TikTok maintained anonymity. I do. But if you really want to win, guess what, guys? Listen, here's the reality. I think it's disgusting that libs of TikTok get doxxed. I also don't think libs of TikTok was really doing anything to fight back in any real way. I think what libs of TikTok was doing was providing entertainment. Now, they were exposing things that I think needed to be exposed and needed to have greater reach. But the fact of the matter is that none of this was happening in private anyway. This is a classic case of like people choosing to be entertained versus people actually doing things to fight back. The punitive the punitive measures send the worrying message that the only acceptable commentary is the propaganda sanctioned by the democratic arm of the corporate state machine. If one dares express or promote sentiments that are a challenge to that hegemony, any consequence is morally justified. The doxing of libs of TikTok user is only the tip of the iceberg. Agreement or disagreement with sentiments expressed by an account being subjected to silencing shouldn't be the fulcrum upon which to hinge your concerns over the precedent their doxing sets for dissenting voices across the political spectrum. I mean, the reality is, Taylor Lorenz got doxed yesterday. And of course, there was that great interview that she did not too long ago on MSNBC where she was like, people send me mean tweets and I have PTSD over it. She got doxxed yesterday. Her family got doxxed yesterday. So it's like one good turn deserves another, I guess. And I think that Taylor Lorenz getting doxxed is just as bad as libs of TikTok getting doxxed. But she should have expected it. She absolutely should have expected it. There was no way that wasn't going to happen. And that's part of the climate that she's created. However, with conservatives turning around and doing exactly the same thing that just got done to them, they are only perpetuating this. And if you think that more conservative anonymous accounts aren't going to get doxxed, you are out of your ever-loving mind. And it's all because both sides just keep backlashing against the other. No one's interested in doing the right thing. They're only interested in continuing this conflict. Under the current order, the issues of censorship and political intimidation of opponents continues to transcend traditional partisan alliances. And if this issue is not treated with the consideration it warrants by actors on all dissenting sides of the political spectrum, it will result in an even more hegemonous and tightly controlled media sphere where dissent eventually ceases to exist in spaces that are easily accessible to the mainstream. Yeah, Alex S. says it's a slippery slope to that horseshoe thing. That's exactly what it is. So my ask of everyone that, pays the least bit of attention to me, and who knows if you take me seriously or if you're just hate watching, I'm sure Justice is just hate watching, or I'm sorry, the court jester. Don't dox people, guys. Don't dox people. Trust me, it's not that hard to make the decision to not dox someone. Every single person can participate in this. We all make an agreement. Stop putting people's personal shit on the internet. And I don't care if your enemy does it. I don't care, conservatives. Conservatives be like, but the left does it. Taylor the Reds dox them to TikTok, so it must be okay to dox them. How do you possibly expect us to fight back if we aren't doxing people? That's exactly what I'm going to hear. And I don't give a fuck. If you are doxing people, you are a garbage human being. If you are putting people's names, if they use different names or addresses or phone numbers on the internet for the purpose of harassment or intimidation or to try to silence them or cause them harm in any way, you are a garbage fucking human being. Don't do it. You will get no sympathy from me, and I don't think you'll get sympathy from anyone else either. And if you dox someone and then you yourself get doxed, don't you dare cry those tears just like Taylor Lorenz did. Oh my God, I have PTSD. You did it to yourself. You did it to yourself by supporting this bullshit in the first place. George Andrew Veloso Nunez says, an eye for an eye just leaves everyone blind. At some point, people need to make the decision to start acting better than your political opponents. Is the microphone going again? Because I think that this is a StreamYard thing. I don't hear it. I have a feed from my microphone. I don't hear it. So you guys got to tell me if the microphone is doing something weird. But I also wanted to look at this piece. And actually, let me just pop this into Chrome because we're going to watch a little video of Tucker Carlson. And I have to do that in Chrome because that's the only thing that works in StreamYard to stream audio. There we go. Tucker Carlson. Of course the left is like, they're basically saying that like they're happy that this all happened, of course, because they don't have any semblance that this could come back to bite them in the ass. Tucker Carlson calls reporter who unmasked libs of TikTok creator a German stooge. I don't really actually see anything wrong with that. Tucker Carlson on Tuesday night wondered out loud why Taylor Lorenz, the author of the Washington Post story, isn't registered as a foreign agent. Huh. I don't want to read this. Let's listen.
But if you really think it's hard, if you're really against that kind of behavior, why are you engaging in it at scale? So a few weeks later, after shooting that performance, Taylor Lorenz shows up at the door, and there's the picture right there, of a relative of the private citizen who posts videos that Taylor Lorenz's bosses don't like. And then she posts that person's identity online. So this is obviously an intimidation campaign designed to shut down a highly effective Twitter feed. But take one step deeper into the story and ask yourself, did Taylor Lorenz, the woman you just saw crying on TV because she has PTSD, did she really do the reporting here? Did she really track down the personal information of the woman who runs Libs of TikTok? Please. Of course not. She couldn't. Taylor Lorenz is not a reporter. Apart from whining about herself on television, she has no skills. She couldn't do a weather forecast in a rainstorm. She's not a journalist. She's merely a receptacle for information that other people gather for their own ends, a willing receptacle. So where did she get this information? Who gave her the identity of the woman who runs Libs of TikTok? Well, actually, we don't have to guess because today's Washington Post story answers that question. The Post piece tells us that information came from a man called Travis Brown. Travis Brown runs the, quote, Travis Brown hate speech tracker, which uses a variety of proprietary methods to reveal personally identifying information of private citizens who stray from the approved storyline. Now, who pays for all this? That's the question. Well, the Travis Brown hate speech tracker is funded by something called the Prototype Fund. Here's how the Prototype Fund describes the point of Travis Brown's project. Quote, prominent right-wing extremist accounts on Twitter and Facebook have developed a well-documented pattern to distribute controversial and extremist content to their followers and then delete it before moderators have the opportunity to react to it. In other words, before it can be censored. Archiving is an important element in counteracting this behavior and has, in many cases, led to prominent victories in the fight against the supreme extreme right. Extreme right. So not all hate speech is the same. The hate speech tracker does not target the hate speech of BLM rioters or Antifa. No, only enemies of the Biden administration and the guys at Davos. How do they do it? Well, Brown's methods, according to him, included using automated software to save user account names and social media posts long after they have been deleted. So there's no hiding from these people. Now, that appears to be a violation of Twitter's terms of service. Not that we care, because they don't care. We reached out to Twitter about this. Isn't this a violation? They ignored us. They suspended our account. What's interesting, though, is that Travis Brown himself appears to be a former Twitter employee. So again, who's paying for this? Well, a foreign government is paying for it. The Prototype Fund gets its money not from private donors, but from the government of Germany, Germany's Federal Ministry of Education. It says so right on the website. In other words, what happened to the woman who runs Libs of TikTok, her life being destroyed, was not the work of Taylor Lorenz, the fearless journalist who cries on TV from her PTSD. No, it was a foreign intelligence operation designed to silence and intimidate an American citizen. Wait, is that legal? Did the Biden administration have any role in this particular intel op? Why is the German government trying to shut down an American Twitter account posting about American teachers? And since she was the recipient, the willing recipient of this information from a foreign government designed to destroy an American citizen, why hasn't Taylor Lorenz at the very least registered under the Foreign Agent Registration Act, FARA? We seem to remember quite a bit of talk about this over the last few years. We think there was an impeachment trial over it. Someone went to prison because of it. But Taylor Lorenz can take information from a foreign government to crush an American citizen, clearly as part of an intel operation, and she's a journalist in good standing at the Jeff Bezos' newspaper? Lots of questions here. We hope we can get to the bottom of all of them. We're going to start tonight.
Well, Daily Beast sounds outraged in this article, but it seems to me that what Tucker Carlson said is actually completely reasonable. How fascinating is that? I knew that guy, Travis Brown, was the one who came up with the information, and I knew that that was how it got to Taylor Lorenz. I didn't realize that that was being funded by the German government. Wow, what a time to be alive. I want to make a note. Anti-Commie in the chat. I did put you in a timeout for 5 minutes because Anti-Commie came in and said, I don't dox people. I only dox communists. Communists aren't people. No. I put you in a timeout for that just to get your attention that I do not condone doxing under any circumstances. I do not condone doxing of your political opponent. I don't care if they're communists. I don't care. Don't dox people. And I will not allow people on my channel who advocate for doxing in any way, shape, or form. I'm sorry, that's the rules. You're not blocked. You're just in a timeout. But I ain't dealing with that shit, man. Not going to happen. So that's what's going on with Libs of TikTok. And again, for me, I think that this is just one of the most reprehensible things that a person can do is to maliciously share private information about someone. It's not good, and it's not a precedent that any of us should be feeding into. And I really hope Libs of TikTok has great security. It seems like she's got a lot of good people around her that are helping her. But this is not something that, listen, I think that we can all predict that the right is going to feed into this. And especially those alt-right, like Groyper type trolls, they're absolutely going to feed into this. And if there's not an adult in the room to step up and say, cut this shit out, it's just going to keep getting worse and worse and worse and worse. And we're going to talk more about that in a second. But first, I want to have a little fun. And look at the journalist meltdown over the fact that we don't have to wear masks on planes any longer. Haha, too bad, so sad. The final big, I guess, virtue signal, collective virtue signal that never made any sense in the first place of everyone having to wear a mask on an airplane. And by the way, guys, every single time I got on a flight from probably like September of 2020 up until today, every single flight that I ever got on, I was wearing a fake mask. Every single one. Never had a real mask on at all. It was a virtue signal the entire time. My mask is fake and it looks like mesh. Or it doesn't look like mesh. It looks real, but it's made of mesh. It's perfectly breathable. It never even felt like I was wearing anything. It's so thin and has holes all throughout it, but was made to look like it wasn't so that I could wear it on flights and I wouldn't get harassed by flight attendants because it was all a giant virtue signal in the first place. None of them ever cared. None of them ever actually really cared if it prevented anything at all, and it never did, and it was all a power trip, and now it's gone, and they are melting down. Let's read. After a federal judge in Florida struck down the Biden administration's mask mandate for most forms of travel, including planes, trains, and public transit, liberal media figures did not take the news well. While the decision was celebrated by many sane Americans and Republican leaders, Katie points out on Twitter that the double standard employed by many liberals in the mainstream media. The meltdown by Beltway journalists over Biden's arbitrary, non-scientific, and ridiculous mask mandate is quite something. They're fine with removing the mask at fancy dinners, of course, but the rest of America, which moved on from COVID a long time ago, must suffer on planes. Of course, we have to instruct you to consult with the CDC for all your mask-related questions, because otherwise I might get a strike on my YouTube channel, and I don't want that. So just go to the CDC if you have any additional questions. Their outrage is especially confusing given the mandate was set to expire on May 3rd after a 15-day extension by the Biden administration was announced last week. But that didn't stop the Twitter storm from raging as the often hypocritical members of the liberal media apparently ignore the fact that everyone or anyone is still free to wear a mask whenever and wherever they like, however silly they might look. This is part of my favorite part of this whole thing is now you have all these virtue signalers on Twitter they're not just wearing masks anymore. They're now wearing like double, triple masks, and they're wearing glasses, and they're wearing a face shield, and they're wearing gloves, and they're posting these pictures on Twitter being like, "You will not take my mask from me." Guess what, dude? Literally no one's trying to take your mask from you. Literally no one is trying to take your mask away. Relax. Wear all your 18 masks and your face shield and your goggles. Wear it till your heart's content. Just stay the hell out of my face when I don't choose to do the same thing. Slate's senior writer, Mark Joseph Stern, joined in the chorus calling an accurate ruling on the facts as a case of the case as an example of a power-drunk I don't know what that word is, that supposedly proves our system, that is a system balanced of power with checks and balances, is badly broken. Mark said, who should decide whether air passengers must wear masks? A federal agency staffed with experts accountable to the president who is accountable to the people, or a 35-year-old Trump judge in Tampa? Try explaining to your friends in other liberal democracies that a single, unelected, life-tenured, 35-year-old judge can just abolish the air travel mask mandate for an entire country. Well, Mark, you can still wear your mask. No one is stopping you. No one cares, Mark. Valerie Jarrett posted a very stunning and brave picture of herself wearing a mask in a car yesterday on Twitter. It's like, I'm still doing it. You're not going to take my mask out of my cold dead hands. No one cares, Valerie. Literally, no one cares. Yes, Alex S., they are coping and overcompensating. That's exactly correct. They are. Of course, when President Trump was in the White House, Mark took a different tone in his commentary on the judiciary checking executive power. Of course, celebrating when it goes against Trump. Dr. Peter Holtz, a professor and nearly constant presence on CNN and MSNBC throughout the pandemic, reacted to the ruling calling for mandatory public health training for America's law students. His recommendation responding to the end of unlawful mandates by issuing a call of a mandate of another kind of mandate is extremely on brand. There should be mandatory course in public health in our nation's law schools. Yes, that's exactly what our lawyers need. I'm just going to read the tweets, guys. We've got Chuck Wendig here, who is a blogger, apparently. We as a nation are fucking hellbound to destroy ourselves. We are addicted to self-destruction, all at the behest of corporations and politicians who will gleefully use our bodies as firewood. I'm sorry, did like someone threaten to start a fire on an airplane? Because that seems to be illegal. That seems illegal to me. Oh, Sam Stein, of course. The judge who made this ruling, Catherine Kimball, is 35 years old, was confirmed at the age of 33 during a lame duck Judiciary Matters. Yes, Sam, go and cry into a corner. The amount of projection on this site is incredible, isn't it, though? Isn't it? Sam is right about that. On that, we agree. Then we've got Lawrence here. Oh, this is Reuters Supreme Court reporter. Oh, isn't that nice? Judge Mizell was confirmed by a lame duck Republican Senate after Trump lost the 2020 election. The American Bar Association rated her as not qualified because of her lack of experience. Too bad, so sad. And then we've got Jeff, PBS News weekend anchor. The judge behind the mask ruling was the 10th Trump judicial nominee to be rated not qualified by the American Bar Association. The Atlantic, Pulitzer Prize-winning journalist, continuing the clear pattern from GOP-appointed judges, diminished the authority of the national government to act across many fronts, while increasing the authority of the state governments to roll back previously guaranteed national rights and liberties, like voting, abortion, LGBTQ, and book bans. I keep telling you guys that the book ban bullshit is going to come back to haunt people. No one listens to me. I said at the very start, the book ban bullshit was going to come back to haunt people because the left was going to use it against us over and over and over and over and over again, and here we are. Here we are. They use it as a talking point every single day. But Ronald apparently won a Pulitzer Prize, doing excellent journalism there. It's the pro-death movement. Oh my god. He's like an MSNBC contributor, isn't he? Yeah, Daily Beast. Politico! The ABA rated her not qualified. She's in her mid-30s and will continue issuing rulings like this for decades to come. We can only hope. We can only hope. So that's just a few of the people melting down. And, listen. Again, I'm going to issue the same message I did with Libs of TikTok and the doxing. I think it's fun to dunk on people on Twitter. Let's be honest. I troll all the time on Twitter, so I'm not going to say anything bad about that. But guys, please do not harass people that you see wearing masks, because they're now worried that because they treated people who didn't want to wear masks like goddamn pariahs and lepers for 2 years, they're probably rightfully worried that, oh my God, if we're wearing a mask in public, people are going to start harassing us because they're no longer required. Don't do that bullshit. Don't do it. It's really, really easy to not harass people. It's really, really, really easy to not dox people. Just don't do it. It's really that simple. Because if you start harassing people and saying, why are you wearing a mask? Take off your mask. Why are you wearing a mask? Are you one of those COVIDiots? We aren't any better than they are. And we need to be better than they are if we're going to win. All right, guys, that is all of the news that I have for today. But I have something I want to say. A special comment, if you will. I'm not even sure where to start this. It has come to my attention from now multiple sources, and this is happening to multiple different people, that anti-woke whistleblowers, people who risk their jobs, risk their livelihoods, don't have big paydays waiting from a fundraiser that was organized for them. People who are actually the people that are the bravest in this entire movement, they're being harassed. And some of them are being harassed by other supposed people in the anti-woke community who are doing it because I'm friends with some of those anti-woke whistleblowers. They're doing it as some petty form of revenge against me. Now, there is nothing that burns me more than when people do not treat these whistleblowers well. These are people who have spoken up when they didn't need to. Some of them are pursuing lawsuits that are game-changing. Some of them have given up their jobs. They've given up their ability to have normal lives. They have put themselves out there for all of us. And there is now more than one of them that is getting harassed by a band of roving psychos on Twitter led by Carrie Smith and Mike Harlow. And they are harassing them because they will not denounce me. Now, I'm friends with a lot of anti-CRT and anti-woke whistleblowers. We all talk behind the scenes. We all help each other out. We all support each other. We have each other's backs. We provide shoulders to cry on. It is not easy being in this game. I've said many times that I've seen every single person in this game descend into madness to some extent. And that includes me. Because it is extremely hard to do this day in and day out. And you expect to get harassed from the left. You expect that. But I have never been harassed as badly by the left as I have been by people on my own fucking team. Carrie Smith and Mike Harlow have been directly harassing me for over a year and a half. They have amassed a band of people, dozens of people, that do this all day, every day. And they do it because they want me to shut up. Because I'm smarter about this stuff than them. I know it better than them. I have a bigger following than them. And they want me to shut up. And now I think that they've started to realize that I won't shut up. And so they've started to harass the people around me. They have been private messaging people in my communities for months, sending them DMs on Twitter, trying to lure people away from me. And they've been successful in some respects. They have turned people against me that I have helped and supported by private messaging them on Twitter and saying, Carlin is dangerous. You have to be afraid of Carlin. You have to be concerned about her. Don't trust her. And then they provide flimsy evidence that is almost always taken out of context, that is changed to mean something it does not. And if you go with them and you join their horde, as Deb Philman has done from The Reason We Learn, she's one of the people that harasses other people. If you go with them and join their horde, then you're welcomed in with open arms. And you're congratulated and you're counseled on giving up your addiction to me, because what they tell people is I'm running a cult and I'm manipulating my followers, which any person that is actually a member of my community will tell you is not true. But if they message you and you don't join them, then they harass you endlessly all the fucking time. And I've now heard this from more than one whistleblower. Now, I was already pissed off enough at this group because last week, this group doxed a friend of mine for being friends with me as a petty form of revenge. They doxed a private person as a petty form of revenge against me because they've tried to break up our friendship and it didn't work. This group has also tried to break up my marriage. They have spread lies about me and my husband. They have sent emails to random people on the internet lying about me. They've tagged my husband in tweets over and over and over again, trying to turn my husband against me. Good fucking luck. And now they've moved on to harassing whistleblowers. People who've sacrificed everything to fight back against this, purely because they are friends with me and they will not join their team. And I'm not going to be quiet about this any longer. I am not going to be quiet about this 1 second longer. They have crossed the fucking line. It's sad. It's pathetic. And it's all because they have no talent of their own. All they can do is glom onto other people that are more talented than them. And they do it all for likes and clicks and to get their competitors in this content game, because to them it's all about content and it's all about image. They do it to shut people up. This is what makes fighting back against critical race theory and this woke bullshit harder than almost anything else, is the constant backstabbing that takes place in the anti-CRT community. Constant fucking backstabbing. Constant infighting. Constant bullshit. It is all completely distracting from what the real enemy is. This is why I do not associate with other content creators. This is why I am building my own army of volunteers so that we can actually work together productively and start to make ground back against these people. But I'm talking about this publicly because I've now heard this from multiple fucking whistleblowers, that they're being harassed by Carrie Smith and Mike Harlow's bullying horde on Twitter because they're friends with me and they can't be convinced not to be. It's completely unacceptable bullshit. It is completely unacceptable. And I'm sorry, I never tell people who to support and who not to support. But if you're on the side of people who are harassing whistleblowers of all people that deserve our respect, of all people who deserve our support, if you're more interested in kissing the ass of blue check influencers than you are in helping and supporting people who have risked everything to fight back for you, you are a garbage fucking human being. The absolute lack of gratitude and the absolute lack of consideration for the people who have risked everything. Because someone wants to be a YouTube star, darling. Someone wants to have their own show. Someone wants to go on all the talk shows and be featured and have all the followers. There are some of us out there that are actually trying to solve fucking problems. There are some of us out there that are actually serious about stopping this as much as we can. I didn't get into this to be a fucking YouTube star. I got into this to fix the fucking problem. And if you don't like it because I'm smarter than you, or I have a bigger platform than you, or I have a bigger following than you, and you are so bent out of shape about this that not only do you not focus on doing your own shit, but you harass my fucking friends? You think that makes you the good guy? Carrie, you think you're not an SJW? When you go around private messaging people about me all the fucking time? You never stopped being an SJW, Carrie. Karen. You never stopped being an SJW. You just changed your target because you wanted to be famous on the fucking internet. Not all of us want to be famous. If you want to do your little YouTube show, I don't give a fuck. Just stay out of our fucking way when we are actually trying to solve fucking problems. Incognito says, why I like Miss K telling it like she sees it. I'm not doing this for sympathy. I'm not doing this to have people say, oh, Carlin, we're so sorry. I mean, and I appreciate the comments I'm seeing in the chat. I'm doing this because people need to be aware that there are bad actors in this space. There are bad actors who are only out for themselves, and they are not out for you. I have been putting up with this shit personally for over a year and a half. I have been putting up with it every single day for over a year and a half. But the minute you bring my fucking friends into it, and my husband, and the whistleblowers, go fuck yourselves. And if you think you're going to shut me up, you are in for a rude fucking awakening. I will never shut up just to spite you. That's all I really have to say about that. Thank you all for allowing me that moment. And now we're all going to chill. Because there is no use in carrying anger around just because bitches and Karens are going to be bitches and Karens on the internet. And from now on, we now have nicknames for these people. We've nicknamed them. My locals did a whole live stream yesterday in our community where we gave them all nicknames like Trump. They all have nicknames now, okay? So as a horde, we are calling them the Chambermaid Brigade because all they do is sling shit wherever they go. So they are now the Chambermaid Brigade. We have the Queen from England. We have the Court Jester. We have the Stepmom. We have Baron Munchausen. And we have Carrie Smith, the town crier herself. And if you want to know who else has what other people the nicknames correspond to, you can go watch the live stream that I did in my locals just yesterday. You can join kb.locals.com. You don't have to pay to watch the live stream, but you do have to join to become a member in the community. And you can do that at kb.locals.com, and you can watch the whole live stream for free, and you can watch us in the brainstorming process of coming up with the nicknames because it was a little fun. I'm going to be honest. It's like I feel like we all know what it's like to be Trump now that we've come up with like Trump level nicknames, but we are no longer giving respect of any kind to the Chambermaid Brigade. And if they want to keep this bullshit up, then I will go full Donald Trump on all their asses because I'm more powerful than all you little bitches put together, and I really don't care. But if you would like to support the work I'm doing and get access to private Zoom calls with me where my locals members will tell you that I do spill the tea on what's going on in these local Zoom calls. I absolutely spill the tea. Every single time. We gossip all the time. It's actually getting kind of bad. We actually probably, if we're being responsible, should rein in the gossip a little bit because it's getting to be a little bit much lately. But we don't like between my locals members and I, we know what's going on. And we talk about it on our private Zoom calls on Monday and Wednesday. And the way you get access to those Zoom calls is by becoming a supporter, which go to kb.locals.com/support. And you can join for $5 a month. You can join for $50 a year, which gives you 2 months for free. You can also make a one-time gift if you would like to do that. When you join, you're going to be able to join tonight in, 2.5 hours? In 2.5 hours, Joshua is going to be joining us for a special astrology workshop that is not going to be recorded, that is totally private, only available to my local supporters. How cool is that? We are also going to be doing book club on April 30th. We do Bitchcraft once a month. And if you become an annual member in my locals, you are going to be able to request a customized autographed book plate for my book, Actively Unwoke, The ultimate guide for fighting back against woke insanity in your life. Actively Unwoke is coming out on May 10th. You can currently pre-order it on Amazon and a whole bunch of other places too. If you go to non-Amazon pre-order options, because I know not all of you like Amazon, but let's see. This is on Simon & Schuster's website. You can get Amazon, Barnes & Noble, Books A Million, other bookstops, IndieBound. You can basically get it everywhere. It's hardcover. It comes in Kindle and also audio version. I did not read the audio version because, thank God, I cannot imagine a more torturous activity than reading my own book. Not that I don't love my own book, it's just a writer thing. I don't like reading my own work back. So a very talented actor read the audiobook, but you guys can pre-order that right now. If you pre-order the book, you will get access to a special exclusive book club with other people who pre-ordered the book. It's going to be pretty great. And if you become an annual member in my locals, you're going to be able to request a special customized autograph bookplate to put inside your book. So I'll write it to your name, or if you want to give it as a gift to someone else, I'll write it to them. I'll write a special message to you. If you want to leave the message up for me, who knows what you're going to get. But if there's something specific you want me to say, I can write that in the book as well. I think that would make a great gift for like a friend or a loved one if I'm honest about it. But, I'm not going to shill too much. All right, guys, that's all I have for today. I will be back. Oh, special update. So I'm going to be back, of course, tomorrow. I stream live at 5 on Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday on this channel. So I will be back tomorrow live at 5 again. On Fridays, we go over to my second channel, Actively Unwoke. And on Saturdays, I'd usually taken the day off. But we've been doing this thing the last 2 weeks called Sassy Saturday, where I do a little bit more of a sassy, gossipy stream, and it's going pretty well. And so what I'm going to do this Saturday coming up, probably around 6 p.m.-ish, is I'm going to watch and react live to Benjamin Boyce's interview with Jack Murphy. I haven't watched it yet, but I've heard about it. And so if you would like to see my reaction to Benjamin Boyce interviewing Jack Murphy on all of Jack Murphy's shenanigans, and I hear that this interview is like an epic train wreck, we're going to be watching that live on Sassy Saturday, probably around 6 o'clock, but I'll make an announcement of when the stream's going to get started. It will not be an epic 7-hour marathon of a stream again. You don't need to worry about that. It will not be an epic 7-hour marathon. I don't think anyway. I mean, maybe it will be. I don't know. And then on Sunday, we come back for effed up news. So guys, that's all I have. Hopefully we'll see you tomorrow. Hopefully I didn't scare any of my Carrie fans away. I'll see you guys tomorrow or later on tonight for astrology class with Joshua. Take care. Have a great rest of your day.